isn't the power of jealousy. And when he hears the argument of the spies, and wants to run away from them so as not to hear the slander they speak, but as much as he moves away from them, they awaken in him a desire and yearning to none less listen to what they say, and at that moment he descends from his degree and falls into their net. The only advice for this is prayer, and that is he should ask the Creator not to be taken after the views of the spies, but only when the thoughts of the spies chase him. This is the heart of the work, not to be taken after the spies. But why indeed is there room for the argument of the spies? The answer is that it is impossible to feel a good taste in light unless from within the darkness. As it is written, the advantage of the light from within the darkness. It is written in her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. All that is written in the Torah was written for the purpose of peace. And even though wars are written in the Torah, even the wars were written for the purpose of peace, we should understand what it means that the wars were written for the purpose of peace, and that because of it, the Torah is called and all her paths are peace. There must be explanations to this in the literal, but in the work we should interpret that we asked. Why do we need the argument of the spies and all those dissents? We explained that the reason is that it is impossible to understand anything except according to the need for the matter, since there is no filling without a lack. It follows that all the wars that were written in the Torah when pertaining to the work, it follows that all the wars are in relation to work. And since it is impossible to feel a good taste in peace if there is no war, meaning that only when there is the war of in the inclination which wants to work only for itself and the person wants to work for the sake of the Creator, then there's the matter of darkness, meaning ascends and descends. Then a need is born within man that the Creator will help him, since he sees that by himself he does not see how he will be able to emerge from the control of self-love. At that time he truly needs the Creator to help him. Then the Creator gives him my covenant of peace. That is the Creator gifts him a gift vessels of bestow by which he is rewarded with adhesion with the Creator. And then the verse, and ye shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, comes true, as our sages said, with both your inclination, the good inclination, and the evil inclination. This is called by my covenant of peace. Let's move to the lesson from 2002. Rob, we heard the article with his exciting voice. What is peace in a work? An article from volume 3. The runs of the letter, page 236. The portion of Peeners. What is peace in their work? We have a problem that we need to reach some state called peace. And peace is the state that completes all the ends, the edges. All the edges means all the thoughts, all the desires, all of the inclinations that are contradictory. We are here the Zikin 110, and I'm here as a representative of the 10 on duty as head of the 10. And as this week comes to an end, I'd like to tell you a few things from the feeling in the role, from the effort to get closer to each other here, to feel the friends' hearts, the heart of each one in the 10. It's something so out of the ordinary. This connection that we create, that we cultivate, that we sustain together every day. This week I felt how connected I am and dependent on each one of the friends. And now in this time of nearness, rather I want this nearness, and I need it. This reality of nearness reveals what a precious and rare thing this is. And when we get closer together, the divides also appear. And then there's an effort to overcome this gapless distance. And we want to feel this very special thing, this miracle of closeness between hearts, of warmth, moving between the hearts. And we want to connect ourselves to that, and to overcome all the gaps and differences that appear on the path. So, let's allow the Zoe to guide us. My dear brother Adam, we'll now read, prior to being rewarded with inverting the desire to receive in us through Torah and into reception, in order to bestow the strong locks on those gates to the Creator. For then they have the opposite role, to drive us away from the Creator. This is why the forces of separation are called locks, since they block the gates of approaching and drive us away from the Creator. But if we overcome them, so they do not affect us, to cool His love from our hearts, the locks become doors. The darkness becomes light. and the bitter becomes sweet, since over all the locks we receive a special degree in his providence, and they become openings, degrees of attainment of the Creator, and those degrees that we receive on the openings become holds of wisdom. From Surah for all introduction of the Book of Zohar, Yaniv take us into the workshop. So we would now like to enter an active workshop, and we'd like to ask how shall we turn the locks into openings and pass together through the gates of approaching the Creator? How shall we turn the locks into openings and pass together through the gates of approaching the Creator? 4 minutes, darkness, and then we can turn to the Creator, and by that we open all the locks. Source excerpt number 2. One must try to remember the goal while studying Torah, so it will always be before his eyes what he wants to receive from the study, that the study will impart greatness and importance of the Creator and Lishma. This very good excerpt we would like to keep in our minds throughout the lesson. So, we'll do an active but silent workshop. Each friend writes down on a note the source excerpt which will be displayed now on screen so that it will be as a reminder for him during the lesson. I'll read it in English again. One must try to remember the goal while studying Torah, so it will always be before his eyes what he wants to receive from the study, that the study will impart greatness and importance of the Creator. Hello everyone. In the first part, we will learn from a lesson of Rav's on the date the 24th of July 2002. The lesson is based on the article, "The Lord is near to all who call upon him." The article can be found on Kabbalah Media.info. It is article number 90, article number 29 from 1985. We'll read the article now for the next 17 minutes. Tolerates no falsehood and loves truth. We'll go to the lesson from the 24th of July 2002. We read an article from Salam Volume 3, page 157. Whoever wishes to awaken things above the reality we exist in is a fixed reality. Beyond what we are able to feel, there is the Creator and there is the created being. The Creator and the created being exist in a fixed, perfect state, with nothing more and nothing less, and nothing changes. When the Creator wished to delight the created being, he created the created being in a state from which nothing is lacking. This state is precisely suited to the degree of the Creator, and the created being exists in it. All the changes in the created being's sensation of where it is are only the inner sensation of the created being. Salam illustrates this with the example of a person who is unconscious and gradually regains consciousness, or someone who is in a basement and little by little the lights in the basement are turned on, and then he sees what is there in with him in the basement from being a closed, dark place full of filth and completely devoid of anything good, becomes a perfect place filled with every good thing, and so on. It depends only on the preparation of the created being, how exactly it aligns itself with the existing state. The existing state is called the Creator. It is the state in which the created being exists. The end of the act is in the initial thought. There is no difference between the beginning, the end, or the middle. When we speak about the created being, we're speaking about the development of its sense and how to perceive the correct state in which it exists. This is called the wisdom of perception, the wisdom of Kabbalah. What does it depend on? The development of the sixth sense of the soul depends on the questions it asks, that is, on its deficiencies. Anything can be felt only out of a deficiency, to the extent that the deficiency is closer to the truth state, that is, to the perfection and eternity of the Creator. So the created being feels the state more truthfully. Therefore, each time the work of the created being includes several stages. The first stage is to emerge from a lack of sensation into a minimal sensation. That is, it crosses the barrier and begins to understand and feel that it truly exists in a state that is altogether called the Creator. Its environment, inner state, everything as a whole, both outside and inside everything, is called the Creator, and the created being is only the point that feels everything is the Creator. Then that point begins to grow and to feel within itself according to the deficiencies revealed in it. That The contact, the state between the created being and the creator undergoes changes until the created being acquires, together with the sensation of the creator independence, and the sensation of adhesion, which also includes the sensation of I and he and so on. Everything depends on the deficiency, because nothing can be felt except within the deficiency of the created being. This first point, the revelation of this first deficiency, is what the creator created as existence from absence. Upon this first point, the creator being needs to build a vessel. This vessel for sensing the true reality is built from the point of deficiency of existence from absence and from the creator's qualities which the created being gradually copies into itself. That is, we have Malat, which is the point of existence from absence, and the first 9 spur that the created being adds to itself are the creator's qualities that it reveals. To the extent that it reveals the creator's qualities and realizes them, acquires them, and works with them until they become its accordingly. It according to the law of equivalence of form, it feels the state in which it truly exists, and thus it progresses. So each time the created being wants to progress can only be in one direction, to a stronger sensation of the true reality. Accordingly, the vessel needs to become greater and truer. Its greatness depends on the authenticity of the question, the authenticity of the deficiency. Each time the deficiency should not merely be greater, it needs to be aimed at the bestowal, at the quality of the goal. That comes first, and only afterward comes the quantity, because quantity can also exist in opposition to the truth in falsehood. Their 2 great desires rule, and if a person enters into great desires that are of the opposite quality, that is not in order to bestow, but in order to receive, then that already demands correction. Certainly these states are necessary, and one needs to go through them as the advantage of the light from within the darkness. However, the goal to which we should aspire, it needs to be the intention to bestow. Don't forget that what we call the creator is the desire to bestow goodness upon his creations, and it is this that we need to reach the knowledge of and resemble. Therefore, each time the vessel must become more genuine, more similar to the form of bestowal, and it's forbidden to forget that for every yearning for the creator, whenever a person yearns for him and feels it in the heart, he needs to correctly decipher what his yearning truly is. Is it for the creator, and that he feels himself dissatisfied, and that he feels himself somewhat lacking, or does he feel that he lacks the creator's qualities? Therefore, whoever wishes to awaken things above needs to know that it can be done only with a true vessel, according to the equivalence of form between the things that truly exist above and one's own desire. To awaken above means to contend with all kinds of disturbances in order to create in the vessel a desire that is equivalent to what exists above, similar qualities. This is called awakening a desire from above. As we say, may it be your will, give us a vessel that will be a true vessel toward you, before you. He says here that in order to awaken these things above, a person needs to turn to the path of truth. And he says that the truth is such that each person needs to see himself as the lowliest. Compared to all these people studying, he needs to see himself as the very worst, the one who's most distant and incapable of it. So how to reach that state? How can a person, you say, that the first stage is crossing the barrier? How to reach the right demand for this? To truly reach the feeling that I'm the lowest of anyone here, everyone here, they're all much better than I, much closer than I. How to bring about that feeling? If a deficiency that we can theoretically place before ourselves cannot, through my own desire, into enter my vessel and become that way, I theoretically want now to be an angel, not wanting to think about myself at all. Well, how can I realize this desire could be that between me and this desire? There are another 80, 100, I don't know how many states that I don't even know, and I don't know through what form of cause and effect I'm still supposed to pass before maybe reaching this desire, and what I imagine to myself about what it means to bestow, to be an angel, to be one who desires mercy, delights in mercy. From where can I now, when I am not yet in this desire, imagine this desire? It's impossible, they're just words. Therefore, a person should not determine any form for themselves. That this is how I want it to be. It need to fit myself precisely in such a framework, such boundaries, such a form. You know, it's impossible. It is simply, I don't know. Desire is something solid, and take it and turn it into another. Desire, it's not. It's not in a person's power. We just don't understand how much deeper it is. Therefore, what does remain for us to do is to use all kinds of means so that our desire will change. That's it. And Kabbalah speaks about these means. They are books that awaken the surrounding light, a group that awakens a general deficiency for this correct guidance. That is all. Certainly, in the end, through the surrounding light of the group and the RV, what I want is a change in my desire. Because when the desire improves and reaches some better dimension, closer to the truth, then I will feel the truth. According to the desire, I determine my spiritual degree. Yes, but I have no possibility of directly influencing the desire. I cannot change it only through these means. The group, the RV, the book. How can I tell what the next stage is that I'm supposed to reach? You never know the next stage you're supposed to reach. You'll never know. It is always a surprise. You will never know because between the degrees, between spiritual states, there is always a break from now until. This break exists each time between one state and the next. We see this with Dalgarter and AB, where although Galgalter underwent refinement right, and the screen rose to the pale of Roche, and seemingly there's nothing and nothing remains of it afterward. The records of Dalat Gimel emerge. These records of Dalat Gimel, although they emerge after the refinement of Galgar, do not belong to Galka. In truth awakens them. So when you pass from one state to another, you just realize the Rishimo so that it will come into action. You'll realize the record, so it'll come into action. The record itself is already inside. You cannot touch it at all. What you do is merely let it now reach realization, that alone. And what is the next? Rishimo. What's the next record? You have no idea. No idea. Even Galar until it completes its action from above downward through its refinement. It does not think. It does not know. It does not feel. That has no connection whatsoever with the Rishimo of Ab, with the record of Ab. And we will learn that the lower spiritual degrees afterward, such that there is always, how should I put it, a break between the mal of the upper one and the ketcher of the lower one, which is the inversion of existence and absence. Or as he says, a seed that you put into the ground until a plant grows from it, right? Then it has to rot and needs to rot completely. That is every degree. Needs to completely lose its form and exist only as the cause of the next degree. Nothing passes from it to the next degree except for pressing the button, so to speak, that lets the next degree emerge. Now that's it. Therefore, every state is a state entirely until itself completely separate, like one slice completely cut off from the next, and only at the end of correction do these slices joined together. There's also a transition from state to state, but for our purposes, what I'm saying now is correct. You cannot with regard to the desire. I'm speaking from the perspective of the desire, not from the perspective of attainment, nor from the perspective of all kinds of other things that already pertain to the feeling. But as far as the desire is concerned, you can never take anything from the previous desire into the present desire or into the next desire. Nothing. Each time you receive a Rishimo, a record, and the next Rishimo in line. Is there such a thing as the collective record of a group, or is it just an environment that enables each one to produce his own records? There is such a concept as a common collective Rishimo or record of a group, provided that it's truly a group. Then there is, as with Rabbi Shimon and his group 10 fur, which is one vessel. Without that vessel, the Zohar would not have been revealed.